Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Nicholas Alahverdian? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case. I'll move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. It is worth noting that Nicholas has been accused of a number of crimes and has been known to maintain multiple aliases. Some of the information for the background comes from statements he made and a fake obituary that was published. Fake obituaries have not typically been regarded as the most accurate sources of information. Nicholas Alahverdian was born on July 11, 1987. Over the years, he has had a number of aliases, including Nicholas Rossi, Nicholas Brown, Nick Allen, Arthur Brown, and Arthur Knight. Nicholas spent time in a number of states, including Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Ohio, and Utah. In 2008, Nicholas was charged with a crime related to sex and convicted of 2 charges. The charges stem from an incident in a stairwell at a community college in Dayton, Ohio. After he was convicted, Nicholas requested a new trial based on a social media post he claimed was written by the victim. In this post, the victim explains how she lied about the incident. The lawsuit was dismissed after it was determined that the post was probably fabricated. In February of 2011, Nicholas filed lawsuits alleging that he was the victim of mistreatment. There were a number of parties named in the lawsuits, including the Department of Children, Youth, and Families in Rhode Island. He claimed he had been mistreated by the system when he was growing up. He was placed in multiple foster homes, which was disruptive to his childhood. He attracted the attention of lawmakers who were sympathetic to his suffering. The lawsuit settled in August of 2013. The state of Rhode Island waived a $200,000 lien from medical expenses incurred while Nicholas was in state foster care. Before we move to the timeline of the crime, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, HelloFresh. Tired of setting unrealistic New Year's resolutions? This year, do things differently and regain control over your food choices with HelloFresh. Getting a home-cooked meal on the table every day is an accomplishment worth celebrating. Let HelloFresh help with 50 weekly menu and market items to choose from so you can think less about what's for dinner and more about achieving your goals. HelloFresh has more 5-star reviews than any other meal kit, so you know you'll get something delicious. HelloFresh offers a wide variety of quick and easy recipes, including 20-minute meals, easy cleanup, and low-prep options. Increase your HelloFresh box serving so you can easily use leftovers for lunches. HelloFresh is a can't-beat value. Even at full price, its pre-portioned ingredients mean you don't have to waste money on excess food. After a long day of researching, recording, and editing videos, HelloFresh makes it easy for me to get a great variety in my dinner selections without having to waste time at the store. Go to HelloFresh.com and use code DrGrande16 for up to 16 meals and 3 surprise gifts. That's 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. HelloFresh.com, DrGrande16. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. In 2017, a complaint for fraud was filed against Nicholas in the state of Ohio. A former foster mother in that state, named Sharon Lane, accused Nicholas of fraudulently obtaining 22 credit cards and loans using her husband's name. Nicholas allegedly ran up almost $200,000 in debt. In addition to this fraud allegation, Nicholas was a suspect in a number of other criminal cases in Ohio, as well as Utah, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, for offenses related to assault of a sexual nature, harassment, and possible kidnapping. Investigators found that Nicholas was married and divorced twice. In both cases, his ex-wife filed for a protective order. The divorce from his second wife finalized in 2017. Nicholas owed her $52,000. In February of 2019, various stories surfaced about Nicholas moving out of the United States. His former attorney said that he was in Ireland. Others believe that he may have been in Switzerland or Germany. In January of 2020, Nicholas claimed that he had been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma and supplied this information to a number of media outlets, insisting that they report his condition. In February of that same year, a person identifying themselves as Nicholas Alahverdian published an obituary indicating Nicholas had died on February 29, 2020. She claimed to be the wife of Nicholas. She refused to provide his death certificate to a local newspaper. She suggested that he had moved out of the United States 4 years earlier due to security concerns. The obituary was creative. I will review it in the analysis. The Rhode Island State Police investigated the death of Nicholas, but could not confirm that he was dead. On December 13, 2021, Nicholas Alahverdian was arrested in Glasgow, Scotland. He was using the name Arthur Knight. He was in the hospital at that time being treated for COVID-19. He had been on a ventilator at one point. It sounds like he wasn't doing too well, although for a dead person, one could consider his status a real improvement. Now moving to my analysis. The fake obituary has attracted a great deal of attention. The author of the obituary is unknown, but I'm going to run under the assumption that it was Nicholas Alahverdian. There is no evidence to suggest that Nicholas Alahverdian exists. Here is a summary of the obituary. The writer talks about how Nicholas was a warrior who fought against government transgressions. His last words were, quote, "Fear not and run toward the bliss of the sun," unquote. It's more likely his last words were something like, "What's the weather like in Scotland this time of year?" The obituary went on to indicate that when Nicholas died, the room was filled with the music that played during the credits of the 1997 movie Contact. I think the 1967 movie You Only Live Twice would have been more appropriate. Nicholas was a devout Roman Catholic. He wanted to be cremated and his ashes scattered at sea. I find this interesting because the current position of the Catholic Church is that Catholics can be cremated, but they should not have their ashes scattered at sea. The obituary then goes on to talk about how Nicholas was an advocate of reform in Rhode Island. There's some grandiose language about his name being uttered in memoriam in the House and Senate chambers and city halls throughout Rhode Island. His selfless and lifelong contributions earned unwavering admiration and respect. There is the section where his obituary recounts his interactions with reporters, then goes on to talk about his different roles, including sociologist, political scientist, and painter. The writer left out repeat criminal offender and con artist. Then we see the obituary returns to the child welfare advocacy that Nicholas had engaged in, talking about how Nicholas suffered so much before wrapping up with a long list of people he wanted to thank. The obituary is consistent with grandiosity, insecurity, resentment, and vindictiveness. It portrays Nicholas as a hero of the people who started out as a victim of a corrupt government. In the end, all these nefarious forces could not stop him. He triumphed over the evildoers and went on to his great reward surrounded by loved ones. At the end of his hero's journey, he was honored by all who knew him. If Nicholas did not die of the disease that he claimed to have, he was at risk to die from embarrassment for writing that obituary. Faking one's death is actually remarkably difficult. Nicholas went to great lengths to do this. He was determined to escape responsibility for his behavior. It was reported that he even tried to hire a private ambulance to escape the hospital in Scotland. Nicholas has been described as brilliant and dangerous. It seems likely that if he was not arrested, he would have attempted to rebuild his identity and continue committing crimes. The crime for which Nicholas was convicted, and the many crimes for which he stands accused, were not particularly sophisticated. These were fairly obvious offenses. Some were carried out using manipulation, but others were characterized by impulsivity. Sometimes Nicholas was cautious in his criminal efforts, but other times he took a lot of chances. So we see two extremes there. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. As Nicholas was growing up, he had a number of experiences which led him to being disagreeable, arrogant, and vindictive. So his personality was shaped in a way where he adopted those characteristics. He believed that people should give him whatever he wanted. When they didn't, he tried to force the situation. He used frivolous lawsuits, threats, manipulation, and aggression to get his way. Even though these tactics helped him to achieve some of his goals, eventually he started attracting the attention of law enforcement. He could not cope with the prospect of a long prison sentence, so he decided that he would move to Scotland and start over. On his way out, he could not resist making himself appear great. Nicholas needed to be victorious over his rivals. He could not let them win. He could not be disgraced. He insisted on getting the last word. He created this obituary to paint himself as a hero before going on to start his new life. Moving to the last question, what happens now for Nicholas Alahverdian? In theory, Nicholas will be facing a number of court proceedings. The probable result is incarceration and being further exposed as a fraud. I imagine he will find a way to frame his punishment as politically motivated. The corrupt system is trying to attack his good character once again. They hate him so much, they even traveled beyond the grave to bring him to justice. Like the state of Rhode Island hired the Ghostbuster version of Dog the Bounty Hunter. Now moving to my final thoughts. The behavior exhibited in this case reminds some people of the victim narcissist construct. This is when a person strives to be recognized as a hero for being a victim. They often use sweeping, bold, unbelievable, and one-sided narratives to paint themselves in what they believe to be the best light, but they often fail to see how others perceive them. They offer themselves so much praise that their intent becomes obvious. The effort to look great is not put forth to compensate or cover their flaws, because they do not believe they have any flaws. In the mind of the victim narcissist, every accusation against them is false, and every attempt to praise them is insufficient. Those are my thoughts on the case of Nicholas Alahverdian. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis on this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.